Joining me. I am somebody with an insatiable appetite for certainty. I want to know what's going on at all times. I want to know what it means, and I want to know where it's all going and how it's all going to work out. I am also incredibly impatient. I don't think I've ever met anyone more impatient than I am. I'm the kind of guy that I go to the gym, I go home and check to see if my six-pack abs have come in because I just worked out and that's what's supposed to happen. I plant a seed in the morning, I expect a sprout by noon. And what I'm beginning to learn is that these two characteristics are related. My need for certainty and my impatience, they're my condition. They're what I have to live with right now, or what I'm trying not to live with, actually. One of the more mundane ways that this gets manifest for me is that I fly Southwest Airlines quite a bit, which if you've ever flown Southwest, you know what absolute chaos that experience is. There are no assigned seats. It's an absolute free-for-all. Your seat is luck of the draw. So there's an enormous amount of uncertainty and anxiety about the entire situation. When you line up, you're expected to talk to other people and figure out what number they are, and it's just chaos for me. But the reason that I fly Southwest is because I can almost always get a direct flight to wherever I'm going. So I would rather endure the uncertainty because I don't have the patience to connect through a hub. Now, that's a more mundane manifestation of my condition, but where it's not so mundane is in my work. I am incredibly impatient with my work. If I put in effort today, I expect results when? Today. Now, what's crazy about that is that much of my professional career has been in the coaching and training of people, mostly in real estate and some other small business folks. And in that world, something that we say all the time, and I have said it to my clients so many times, is what you do today will show up 90 days from now. 90 days from now. In other words, it's just an accepted fact that there's a delayed payoff for our effort, that nothing is immediate. But my friends, patience is not my virtue. And while I'm preaching this to others, I am not taking the lesson. And I think that I'm going through a phase in my life right now where that is the lesson to be learned. That is the virtue to develop. And I can share with you, I can report to you that the internal kicking and screaming is at an all-time high with me. So, what's a fella to do about that? How can a person develop their patience? How can a person develop a tolerance for uncertainty? So when I study this idea, what I find tells me that to develop patience, one must practice patience. Which of course sounds horrible to me because that's basically torture. That is not the answer I was looking for. I was really hoping for some other answer. There are a couple of books that I was reminded of when I was thinking about this topic and thinking about how I'm going to cure my condition. One is called The Seasons of a Man's Life by Daniel Levinson. It's called The Seasons of a Man's Life. I highly recommend this book. By the way, there's also one called The Seasons of a Woman's Life that he and his wife wrote together. She released it after he had died. So I think that if you look it up, it's going to be in her name listed first, not his, but great books. This book is about a study that Levinson did that tracks the developmental stages and the developmental task of a man's life. And based on this study, he created this chart that this is what a man will experience developmentally, psychologically at age, and there are several ages that he listed out, but it's like age 30, age 40, 45, 50, and so forth. These are the developmental stages, and these are the developmental tasks that a man is going to experience. And within these developmental tasks, there are things that you have to complete within these stages. And this is really important. And what he says is if you don't check off and complete that developmental task, I'm having a hard time with that word this morning, developmental task, that task is going to carry over for you into the next stage of your life. So if it's left undone, it's not that you get to skip it, it's just going to show up for you again in the next stage, and you'll have to complete it there. And it will continue to follow you until you complete it. A couple of examples of this to make that make sense. A man has to, for example, separate from the family that he grew up with and develop his own identity and create his own life. So that's one of the tasks that a man has to go through. And you can either do it at this age, where most men do it, or it's going to follow you into the next stage. Another example is that a man will get to a place in his life where he has to restructure his life to more closely align with his values and aspirations. So you get to know yourself better. Maybe what you've been doing doesn't align with where you really want to go now that you know more about yourself. And so there has to be a restructuring of your life. And if you don't do that at this age where it typically happens, then that's going to follow you into the next phase of your life. Now, this is an idea that I want to come back to in a minute, but I want to tell you about the second book that this brought up for me. The second book is called Life is in the Transitions. It's by Bruce Feiler. Feiler also did a study where he examined the transitions that we experience in life, and what he discovered is that we are going to spend about 25 years of our lives, or roughly 1/3 of our lives, in these transition periods. This was not comforting for me. So a third of your life is spent in transition. A third of your life is spent in a state of uncertainty. Feiler's work revealed that most people are going to experience 3 to 5 of these major transition periods that he calls life quakes, like earthquake, life quake. He says you're going to experience 3 to 5 of these major transitions, and that each of those transitions is going to last about 5 years from start to finish. And there are stages that he goes to in the book about what happens within those 5 years. There are stages within that. We're not going to go into that here, but I do highly recommend the book. If you're experiencing transition and want to understand it better, definitely grab that book. So I'm trying to find solace and certitude in the research around what I'm experiencing. And in my attempt to better understand how to handle uncertainty and how to develop my patience. And what I discover is that the things that create uncertainty for me and test my patience is going to be about a third of my life. So this is not looking good for somebody with my condition. This does not sound like a recipe for success and happiness for Chad Peavy. So I figure this is going to be about a third of my life. I might want to try to figure this out. Maybe patience and tolerance for uncertainty is important. So back to Levinson's work, the stages of a man's life. All right. So in his work, he said, what a man does not complete at a developmental task, that task is going to follow him into the next phase. And that idea got me thinking about my condition. So my condition, what if patience and tolerance for uncertainty are my task for right now? I haven't learned these lessons, so maybe that's at least part of the task at hand. And if not the developmental task, most certainly a task that's going to equip me for the remaining cycles of transition and uncertainty that I'm being told are inevitable. So it seems to me that this inevitability of the situation presents a choice for me. I can either spend a good number of the remaining years of my life kicking and screaming as I'm doing now, or I can learn to flow with life rather than fight it. So I can allow life to happen and trust in my ability to handle it, or I can continue to try to direct the flow of the river and, if past is prologue, likely drown. So there's a story that goes along with this. There's a story of an old man who was teaching his grandson about life. And he said, "Grandson, there is a battle between 2 wolves inside all of us. One is evil. He is anger and envy, sorrow, regret, greed, arrogance, self-pity, guilt, resentment, inferiority, lies, and the ego. And the other wolf is good. He is joy and peace, love, hope, humility, kindness, empathy, generosity, truth, and faith." And the grandson, hearing this information, thinks about it for a minute, and then he asks his grandfather, "Well, which wolf wins?" And the old man just said, "The one that wins is the one you feed." Now, honestly, when it comes to my condition, lack of patience, a hunger for certainty, I'm not sure I've been paying all that much attention to which one of those wolves I've been feeding. But I do know that it's time to start. So the idea of practicing patience, while it still drives me nuts, has led me to a mantra that offers me at least a little brief taste of solitude. When the anxiety is bubbling, the words that come to mind is, right now, in this moment, I have everything that I need. Right now, at this moment, all of my needs are met. And so when I start getting anxious about things not going as quickly as I think that they should go, those are the words that I try to find. Right now, in this moment, I have everything that I need. Right now, at this moment, all of my needs are met. And the other thing that I'm thinking about is a line in another book that I've been reading, or reading for the second time, is The Surrender Experiment by Michael Singer. And in it, he has this sort of throwaway line that I absolutely loved. He says that if you let life, if you let it, life will give you more than you would have ever given yourself. If you'll just let life, life will give you more than you'll ever give yourself. Which means we have to stop trying to control the flow of the river and allow life to just take us where it will. And that requires trust and tolerance for uncertainty. And it requires patience for the process. So which of the wolves within will I feed? We all get this choice. And herein lies the work, to be conscious of that choice that we get to make every single day. Which of those wolves inside of us are we going to choose? The one that takes us to the person we want to be, or the one that is catering to our worst instincts? And so I remind myself as often as I can that right now I have everything that I need. Right now, all of my needs are met. So may you have joy, peace, and happiness, good health and well-being, a life of ease and prosperity, the courage to get what you want from this life, the clarity to know what that is, the imagination to not sell yourself short, and the discipline to see it through. Have a good day and have a good weekend.